Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fabulous Thursdays, wherever you may be. Sweet 16 going to be underway in about 4 hours from now, if my math is correct. And I'll run you through some of those matchups. Major League Baseball, back opening day of Major League Baseball. I don't know why they did it on Sweet 16 Thursday. We will talk about that as well. I've got a prize picks for you. Stephen A. goes off on LeBron to open First Take today. Rob Manfred goes off on ESPN. White Lotus, Duke is not happy with the big-time HBO show. Elise Stefanik pulled from UN ambassador role. What does that tell us? All that and more. But we began with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily sports app with Prize Picks. You against the number. Spring's here. Baseball season officially underway. The Sweet 16 is underway in about 4 hours. We have got a lot of different awesomeness out there. If you are an NBA fan, that is underway. You can pick more or less in baseball, in basketball. Your favorite athletes, simply choose whether they're going to do better or worse than what the number is set for. More or less is easy to do. You can download the app today. Use code OutKick, $50 instantly when you play your first $5 play. And I have got yet another pick for all of you. This will be a $10 bet, $10 pick that will turn into $34, 3.5 to 1 nearly is the payout if I am right about all of these. Thanks to Adam, who is involved. These are the games going on tonight. Cooper Flag, you need to get this in before 9 Eastern. Okay, before 9 Eastern, Cooper Flag, more than 1/2 point. It is a free square for all of you. Then Tyrese Proctor playing tonight, more than 11.5 points. Mark Sears, Alabama point guard, more than 1.5 threes. And then Johnny Broome, Auburn's star forward. This is tomorrow, more than 24.5 points and rebounds. If all of these hit, it is $10 to get back $34. That is 3.5 to 1. When you play $5, you get $50 when you sign up and use code OutKick. All you have to do is go to prizepicks.com. Use code OutKick. I just ran it through, but one more time. Cooper Flag, free square. You have to get this in by 9 p.m. Eastern. So before this game tips, Tyrese Proctor, Mark Sears, Johnny Broome, all more. And if that hits, 10 turns into 34. 100 turns into 340. 1,000 turns into 3,400. That's how the math works, unless I have managed to screw all this up, which I have not. And I encourage all of you to get out there and make those picks. Again, thanks to Prize Picks for the Prize Picks special. Cooper Flag being able to automatically win. Okay, let's go in on several different stories that are out there. First of all, Sweet 16 games. I'm going to be watching. You're probably going to be watching. First tip-off, Alabama, just after 7 p.m. Eastern, going head-to-head with BYU. I don't know if I had a big discussion about this. Adam, you can remind me. Since we're sitting here at the Sweet 16, I think I can do it. Do you know the 4 teams that have been to the NCAA tournament the most without ever having advanced to the Final Four? Missouri, this is in no particular order because I don't have the order in front of me right now. Missouri, Tennessee from both in the SEC, BYU, Xavier. Those are the 4 schools that have been to the NCAA tournament the most, and I think all of them have been 28 or 29 times. Alabama used to be on that list, but Alabama went to the Final Four for the first time last year. We will see whether BYU, playing tonight against Alabama, can break this logjam. Xavier already lost, unfortunately, for the Musketeers. Tennessee playing tomorrow against Kentucky. We'll see whether Tennessee can kick down the Final Four door and finally be able to advance to a Final Four as well. But I do think as you get ready for this BYU game against Alabama, this would have been an incredible never been to the Final Four matchup as recently as last year. BYU is on the upswing, I would say, in terms of its overall athletic program. Obviously, in the Big 12 now, I think BYU has really good athletic support in an NIL era. I think that the Cougar fan base has responded very positively. Obviously had a very successful football season last year. Now following it up with a Sweet 16 run. Alabama, Nate Oates, has been very successful for the Crimson Tide. Alabama, 4.5-point favorite. I think Alabama covers this number and goes on to the Elite Eight this year. Maryland, Florida. You guys know I picked the Florida Gators to win the NCAA tournament. I love Walter Clayton Jr. I think he's the most killer instinct player in this tournament. And I love his big shot making ability down the stretch. Ice water in the vein. He had a couple of big shots for those of you who were watching their game against UConn on, I believe it was Sunday. Now they are back. They're playing out west in San Francisco. But I like Florida to cover against Maryland. I thought that was a travel. By the way, late by Maryland. I thought Colorado State got a little bit screwed. A lot of people tried to argue that was a gather step, which I'm not willing to accept as a thing. I think a lot of travels just don't get called because officials have gotten used to them. Carrying the basketball doesn't get called. There's certain ball handling, what I would call sloppiness, that's just kind of got embedded in the game and no longer gets called at all. But I think Florida gets the win. I think Alabama gets the win in the cover. I'm taking Arizona. Arizona going up against Duke. Duke is the biggest favorite of any team so far in the tournament, nearly a double-digit favorite for a third straight week. Blue Devils really haven't been challenged that much. ACC, one of the weakest overall performances by the ACC we have ever seen. I do think the NIL is catching up. I don't think the ACC schools have the same amount of dollars as other schools. And so I think Arizona keeps it close. Duke wins, but I think Duke by 4 or 5 instead of 10. And then I like Arkansas. John Calipari's team, no pressure, gotten on a little bit of a run against Texas Tech. They are a 5.5-point favorite. Going to be a late night. Might need some Crockett coffee. This game not scheduled to tip off probably till 10:15 or 10:20, meaning if you're on the East Coast, this game will not end until after midnight. Going to be a late night, early turn for many of you. So I am taking the Razorbacks to cover in this game on Thursday. Let me give you a little bit of a housekeeping, by the way. Probably should have mentioned this off the top. No shows next week. I'm going to be on the road all next week traveling. I'm playing a couple of different charity golf events. I'm playing for Tunnel to Towers, helping to raise money for them in West Palm Beach. So I will be at that event on Monday. I won't be on radio either. Tuesday and Wednesday, I will be on radio. Thursday, I am in the Celebrity Pro-Am at Doral for the Live Golf Tournament, which I am looking forward to. Should be a lot of fun, but I will not be on radio then, so I'm doing 2 different golf events. I will be at that one in Doral on Thursday. Then I'll be back home. Actually, I will. I'll do a show here. Should be able to do a show here. Let me go ahead and make a change. Well, maybe not because I'll have Martha. Anyway, I'll be back on radio from Nashville on Friday. But I think I'll be doing Martha McCollum, which makes doing an OutKick show hard. So no OutKick shows next week. And then maybe on Monday, we'll do certainly we'll be back and we'll be getting you ready for whatever the championship game is. And I've said this for years, but I will continue to echo it and reiterate it and state it. If Tennessee were to win tomorrow against Kentucky and then win in an Elite Eight game against either Houston or Purdue, I will be taking my entire family to San Antonio. Given the fact that Tennessee has never been to a Final Four, I have said this now for a very, very long time. If Tennessee's in the Final Four, I'm going to be there because I don't know if it'll ever happen in my life. I'm now 45. Actually, I'll be turning 46 Final Four weekend. I don't know if it's ever going to happen. So if it ever does happen, I am going to take my family to San Antonio this weekend or next weekend to be present for the Final Four. So if that were possibly to happen, then I would be there. Okay, Major League Baseball opening day. I tweeted about this earlier. Because my kids have become such big Atlanta Braves fans, I now am a Braves fan. This started, for those of you out there who have who don't really remember it, My middle son, when he was a young kid, just started coming home and putting on Braves games every night. And he turned into a big Braves fan. And then during COVID, when nothing was going on, even though they only played a 60-game season, we watched the Atlanta Braves every night during that 60-game season. We've been down to Atlanta, to the Battery, every year since 2020. Even in 2020, when you weren't allowed in the stadium, we stayed and went to the Battery. I tweeted about this earlier today. I'm an Atlanta Braves shareholder. You can go buy Atlanta Braves stock. When I see the prices that, for instance, the Boston Celtics are selling for, and I go visit the Atlanta Braves, that fabulous stadium, the entire Battery marketplace surrounding the Atlanta Braves, which is also owned by the team, I just think it's an incredible value. Whole team for about $2.5 billion market cap. They have some debt of around $500 million and change. But I think if you go visit, the Atlanta Braves have established an incredible Major League Baseball fan base because the SEC, think about this, this is really kind of wild. The SEC states have fewer Major League Baseball teams than they do NHL, NFL, or NBA teams. Now, partly this is because Major League Baseball has expanded less than the rest of the leagues have, and many of the southern states and the southern cities, their population has exploded as in the last 20, 30, 40 years. But as a result, Major League Baseball is way behind when it comes to teams in the SEC footprint, particularly the traditional SEC footprint. Think about this. No Major League Baseball in Arkansas, no Major League Baseball in Louisiana, no Major League Baseball in Alabama, no Major League Baseball in Mississippi, no Major League Baseball in Tennessee. Kentucky, across the river, you have the Reds, but no Major League Baseball in Kentucky, the southern part of Kentucky, certainly that is closer to Tennessee. No Major League Baseball in North Carolina, no Major League Baseball in South Carolina. It's the Atlanta Braves. I mean, it is crazy. So for people out there who say, okay, well, what's the Braves fan base? Well, one, Atlanta, kind of a big place with a good population base, right? But you're also getting all those other SEC states I just ran through. And even in the state of Florida, you have to go all the way down to Tampa to get a Major League Baseball team in Tampa. So much of North Florida is Braves country too. Basically, the Braves are the Major League Baseball team of the SEC. Now, I know you got the Astros. I know you've got the Rangers in Texas, right? I know you've got the Marlins and the Rays both in Florida, but neither one of those teams in Florida really has much of a fan base anywhere, frankly. And so you end up with a situation where, man, I just look around and I say there are a lot of options for the Braves. Now, I think my home city of Nashville should get a Major League Baseball team. Frankly, I think Charlotte should get a Major League Baseball team. We'll see how that would play out with the Braves when it comes to their footprint, their territory, and all those things. But when I see the Boston Celtics sell for $6 billion, which doesn't include their arena, and they don't have a big real estate holding group surrounding it, the Atlanta Braves long-term are a gold mine. And at some point in time, a super rich person is going to buy them. In the meantime, I will be taking my family on a regular basis down to Atlanta to watch the Braves play. I have become a big Braves fan through the vessel of my three boys. They became fans even more than me. Okay, Rob Manfred. Today is Major League Baseball opening day. I don't agree with doing it on the Thursday of the Sweet 16. Some of you may have seen me tweeting about this. I think that's a poor decision. I think Major League Baseball should try to have the entire day to itself. But I think it's Zach Dean has been writing about this at OutKick. ESPN has basically stopped covering Major League Baseball on their network. They've had Major League Baseball since 1990. It is opening day. They had virtually no coverage leading up to Major League Baseball starting. ESPN and Major League Baseball have broken up. And Mad Dog Russo had Rob Manfred on as the guest to talk about Major League Baseball, and he basically went off on ESPN. And his argument was one that I have made publicly for some time, which is ESPN said, hey, we'll pay whatever it takes to keep the NBA. Even though the NBA audience has collapsed, even though most people are not watching it like they did in the 90s and the early 2000s. They went all in to do whatever it took to keep the NFL. I think they're going to go all in to do whatever it takes to keep the SEC, but they turned their back on MLB and said, basically, we don't need you anymore. They don't promote the sport at all. They don't talk about it. They don't help to grow it. And as a result, I understand why Rob Manfred is basically turning his back on ESPN. I think it's 2028 when most of Major League Baseball's contracts come up. They're going to have to make some really interesting decisions. They got to do away with the blackouts. I've argued this for some time. I'm willing to pay whatever it takes within reason to just know that I get the Atlanta Braves no matter what. It doesn't matter if Fox or ESPN or some other streamer has the Atlanta Braves games. I should, as a Braves fan, be able to purchase every game. You should, if you're a Chicago Cubs fan or a San Francisco Giants fan or a Miami Marlins fan or a Yankees, Red Sox fan, whoever your team is, you should be able to buy what I'm calling the golden ticket. And that should guarantee you access to every game that your team plays. You should be able to sit down in your house. You should be able to pick up your phone or your iPad or whatever it is if you happen to be out of the country. You should, or out of the out of your geographic region, out of your home, you should be able to pay for what I'm calling a golden ticket, and it should allow you to watch your team. I honestly believe this, certainly anywhere in the nation, but I would argue anywhere in the world. And it should be easy. You should have one password. There should be no blackout dates ever, and that should be the way that you're able to watch your team. I think every major league team should have this as a part of whatever new deal they do. Now, doesn't mean you shouldn't still have a national baseball package, because it still makes sense to be able to watch other teams play and for baseball to try to promote its other stars. But if you are a fan of a diehard fan of a team, and Major League Baseball fans overwhelmingly are, it's why Major League Baseball doesn't have necessarily the same national appeal, but it has a much better regional appeal than hockey or the NBA do. In other words, if you told me right now, hey, Clay, do you want to have the Atlanta Hawks or the Atlanta Braves games? Atlanta Braves is no doubt in Atlanta, right? That's true for almost every city where an NBA, Major League Baseball, and NHL team overlap. If you had to choose, you would pick the local baseball team as the one that you would rather have access to. And that's not just because baseball, because some of you are going to say, well, they pay 162. You only get 82 games, the others. No. Even if you could only get 82 baseball games, you'd rather have 82 baseball games than 82 NBA or 82 hockey in that particular area, in that particular region. So I do think that factors in. Opening day, I don't think was smart to put at the same time as the Sweet 16. You've seen me tweet about it, but I do think that the way that ESPN has turned their back on Major League Baseball is indefensible. I think it makes it hard to argue that you're going to have some sort of flagship offering when there's almost no baseball that's going to be on it at all. And I think baseball fans are going to remember. I think they're going to remember what ESPN promoted, who ESPN respected. Rob Manfred used the phrase disrespectful to describe the treatment of Major League Baseball by ESPN. I think that's accurate. Speaking of ESPN, Stephen A. Smith went after LeBron James. I don't remember if I talked about this yesterday or not. LeBron James went on with Pat McAfee. Good for Pat McAfee. Solid guest. I don't blame him. I'm sure the ratings were good. But Stephen A. Smith started off his show, which is occurring, mind you, on the day of the Sweet 16 and also on the day Major League Baseball returns, with 17 minutes discussing LeBron James. And it seems quite clear to me now that Stephen A. and LeBron James don't like each other. And I actually think you have to come down on the side of Stephen A. on this dispute. And let me explain why. LeBron sought this dispute out. I'm a dad. I've got 3 boys. I am a pinprick as famous as LeBron James. If I found someone in a public setting where everybody is recording and I confronted them in a public venue to try to create a story, which is what I think LeBron did, then you can't then complain when other people tell their side of the story. Let me just kind of give you a little bit of a real world discussion. There are all sorts of things that are talked about privately that are not for public discourse. That is, tons of things out there that many of you would not know have happened because they were off the record. Media outlet and a individual who's running for office, media outlet, prominent athlete, media outlet, and prominent owner. Lots of discussions that never go public. If LeBron truly had an issue with Stephen A. and what Stephen A. has said, he could easily request a private meeting. They could meet in a room off the locker room for 10 minutes, hash it out face to face. Nobody would ever know it happened. Instead, LeBron confronted Stephen A. Smith on the court. I've never heard Stephen A. Smith say anything other than LeBron James's son didn't earn his way into the NBA, which is true. LeBron James, in fact, bullied the Lakers and other parts of the NBA to ensure that his son ended up on the Lakers. We've never seen anything like this happen in the history of sports where a dad says, hey, my kid has got to be on this team. Now, it happens in like Little League, right? Dads or moms on a regular basis might demand that their kid be on a team, that their kid be an all-star, that their kid play more than they otherwise would if it weren't for the dad or the mom. A lot of people have issues with that. If you've raised kids or you've coached, you may have had to deal with parents who don't really seem to have an ability to logically analyze their own child's ability. And so they behave irrationally in terms of the demands that they place on coaches, maybe the demands that they even place on their own kids. All of this can happen, but we've never seen a pro athlete demand that his son be drafted when the son had no otherwise ability that would suggest that he should be drafted. So Stephen A. addressing that is the very foundation of what his job is. He didn't say LeBron was a bad dad. He didn't say LeBron was a bad husband. He didn't say that LeBron was in some way anything other than a violating the meritocracy of sport by putting his own son in above him. And then LeBron goes on Pat McAfee's show and takes shots at Stephen A. And Stephen A. is not supposed to respond. Now, again, it's possible this is all a work, right? I don't think so, because I think LeBron is too sensitive to be a part of any story that doesn't allow him to be the star, the paragon of virtue. I don't think he can handle it. So I don't think it's a work for that reason. Meaning, when I say work, I don't think this is like a heavyweight title buildup or a wrestling fake-ness designed to draw more attention. I think LeBron can't handle a scintilla of criticism. And I think whenever he is criticized, he lashes out at the criticism. And as Stephen A. Smith pointed out, basically all he said is, you're the second best NBA player of all time. And if that is the standard that you find unacceptable, what is going on with your overall persona that you would be in a position where you can't handle that even at the age of 40 after 20 years in the NBA? So I'm Team Stephen A. on this. I think it's actually unfortunate that on the day of the sweets, this is like a summer beef story to me, when there's no other stories going on, like when there's actually Sweet 16 games and when there are lots of storylines to follow there, and when there are lots of storylines to follow with Major League Baseball. This to me is like a July story before NFL training camps get started. Trust me, I had to do 3 hours a day. Heck, I did 3 hours a day with no sports back when COVID happened. But sometimes you get into that June, July window where you haven't yet gotten to NFL training camps and you don't have NFL preseason to talk about, you don't have college football looming to talk about, and everybody's just kind of in the dog days of the summer. That's kind of when this LeBron versus Stephen A feud would make the most sense. But I'm actually team Stephen A to the extent you have to pick a side here. I have a big story up. I worked on it a lot. I've got a new book that's coming out. But I have a big story that's up about the experience behind the scenes on Air Force One. I don't know, it's 7,000, 8,000 words for those of you out there, and I've already gotten some emails saying thanks for writing this. Some of you love OutKick, and you want me to just write. You say, hey, you know what? I found OutKick because of your writing. Now you're doing 3 hours a day of radio, and you've got the OutKick show and all these things. Okay, this is for you. If you want just long-form writing from me, you've got 7,000 or 8,000 words that are up. You can go into my Twitter feed, at Clay Travis. You can find it. You can go to OutKick.com. I think it's going to go up on the front page of FoxNews.com. And it's all about what's it like to travel on Air Force One. What does it feel like? What is Air Force One like? What is the White House press corps like? All of these things that you probably will never have an opportunity to experience. I'm trying to take you into that experience. And so that is up, and I hope that you will enjoy it. If you like long form, go click on it, go share it. When long form does well at OutKick, it encourages us to do more long form. So go check that out. I spent a lot of time on it, as well as continuing to write this new book. A couple of other stories that are out there. White Lotus. I like White Lotus. What are we, 6 episodes into White Lotus, season 3? I understand some of you are rolling your eyes back into your heads. You've never actually watched one of these episodes. You're wondering what in the world I'm talking about. I like this show. I like this creator, writer, Mike White. I think they have done a good job. I enjoyed season 1, season 2, and now I'm enjoying season 3. Season 3 is dark. All 3 seasons have been dark. I have a little bit of a dark sense of humor. And so I find this show very enjoyable. Some of you do not, and therefore you do not want to watch. But one of the plot lines involves a character from North Carolina who went to Duke, and he has been spending a lot of time in a Duke t-shirt. He is a suicidal character. Duke is upset that they are having this character wear a Duke t-shirt, and so they are complaining about it. I would lean into it. I think complaining about pop culture using your brand, even if it's a way that you don't particularly like it, doesn't lend itself well. If there is a White Lotus character on season 4 who wants to be in an OutKick t-shirt, guess what? I would not complain about it, even if the character was not particularly positive, as is the case with virtually every character on White Lotus. So I would not be complaining if I was Duke about this in general. Finally, I think Elise Stefanik, Congresswoman, deserves some credit. News broke, I don't know, about a half hour ago, an hour ago, that she is dropping out of being UN ambassador because the margin of the majority in the House for the Republican Party is only a few seats, and she thinks that her seat in New York is too important to potentially give up to a special election. So there are, however, 2 special elections coming up on April 1st. Encourage you guys, as always, to go vote. And Jimmy Petronis representing Florida 1. This is where my beach life is spent. Down on 30A, Destin area. Jimmy Petronis, formerly represented by Matt Gaetz. Encourage everybody to get out and vote for him. And I encourage you to get out if you are in Florida 6, if you're in St. Augustine, if you're in the Daytona area. Go vote for Randy Fine. Keep Trump in the majority on his House side, so that he can enact his agenda for the rest of this year and most of the rest of next year before we find out what's going to happen in the House. And again, if you enjoy my writing, I would encourage you to go check out the piece that I posted about behind the scenes with Donald Trump and Air Force One this past weekend. A lot of words, long form, but I think many of you will enjoy it. It's up at OutKick.com, and it is up behind my name on Twitter at Clay Travis. All right, I love all of you. I will be back talking to all of you. Let me make sure I don't need to any other major details out there, but I appreciate all of you, and I will be back. I'll probably be with Martha McCollum tomorrow in the around this time, and then I'll be back with you guys after being away in South Florida for a week. Enjoy the Sweet 16 games. Let's get rich. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. This has been OutKick, the show.